Welcome everyone to tonight's Skeptic and Ranting Trannyosaurus. I normally avoid identity politics like the plague. That being said, it's hard to avoid my identity, which is why today's podcast is a look at sex and gender in the secular community, while also giving me a chance to explain a bit about myself. So, okay, as has been said 1,000 times by others, I knew who I was at an early age. It's not some massive split brain experiment, but much more subtle. There were boy toys and there were girl toys, and liking both of them meant that something was wrong with me. So I put my feminine side, which in my opinion is my dominant side, in dormant mode. I lived a fairly boring and sheltered 18 years of my life. However, when I became 18, something dramatic happened. I moved from my super suburban neighborhood into the middle of rural nowhere. From a county of over 600,000 to a town that, no joke, has a population of around 650. Removed from my friends, society, and most of the world, I suddenly had a lot of time to think. Within a year, my mother and I were in fights, and I was talking to a therapist. And I do sympathize with her and love her dearly. This took about a year until I hopped on a plane and went off to the other side of the country. It then took a few more years until I could come back home as the Amy I always was. Isn't I? Now, I'm a grandma Tyrannosaurus. After I transitioned, I gave help to transgender individuals who have in turn gone on to help other transgender individuals, something I'm quite proud of and hope continues. And that goes for anyone of any community showing the newbie the ropes. I'm going to now tread upon a few political waters, which will hopefully not get eaten by sharks. I fucking hate politics. And really, all I want is for people to get along. That ain't gonna happen, but it can on this podcast. Anyway, let's talk about the bathroom, children, and sports. The bathroom is easiest because this shouldn't be an issue. What are we gonna do? Hire potty police? I can sum this up with a quote from the fake conversation in Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Bruce Lee goes, "But my hands are registered as lethal weapons. That means we get into a fight, I accidentally kill you, I go to jail." And Cliff responds with, "Anybody accidentally kills anybody in a fight, they go to jail." It's called manslaughter, which is a reminder that it doesn't matter which gender someone is. If you're in the bathroom to spy on anyone else, you're going to jail. Moving on, won't someone think of the children? Always the goddamn women and children. Right, guys? I'm just teasing, okay? This is obviously a controversial subject for a variety of reasons. We want children to grow up as functional members of society. With that goal in mind, I'm going to hand it off to the parents, the situation, and most importantly, the experts. I think we can all agree if there is some super crazy parents out there pushing this on their child, they should be stopped. However, most of the time, it's the teenager trying to hide the fact that they have gender issues from the parents and not the other way around. And finally, sports, because go local team. Again, a subject I struggle to care about, unless, of course, I'm under intoxication, but why not? When dealing with this issue, the moral metric here seems to be fairness. Both sides want to be fair to someone. All right, cool. I have two solutions for this one. Either we mesh together into one lump called sports, where any sex can get in if they meet the bar, or we should create the national level transgender team for men and women. You know, a bunch of trannies running around the field kicking balls. That is pay-per-view level stuff. Tickets sell themselves, folks. All in all, being transgender to me is about character selection. Some of us are born with one set of genitals, but we don't like the way we look on the outside. Thus, we go on an adventure to set things right. Some of us like to heal, but we're not priests. Some of us like to tank, but we're not warriors. Sometimes paladins bring their own unique bubbling powers. What I'm trying to say is World of Warcraft is awesome, and it takes all of us to raid a dragon. Thank you. Woohoo! How are you doing tonight, Bo James, and how are you doing tonight, Sam?
I'm doing good. How are you doing, Amy and Sam?
I'm all right. I just got, damn it, I just got distracted at work and by work, and delayed. But
It happens.
I'll be coming on a second.
And what are your thoughts or any thoughts on being transgender? What are your thoughts about a secular sexuality? Any of these topics?
I think James should go first because usually I try to be the mediator, right? Even though my position might not be middle ground on everything, I don't let people know that. But tonight, I'm probably going to say some things that offend everybody, especially trans people, even though I am.
As we do.
Hey, it's okay. We are a politically incorrect channel here. And in fact, I eventually look forward to the politically incorrect transgender survival guide. I think that's what I'm trying to build up for. But yeah, no, I want anyone to say what is on their mind. It doesn't matter.
We're all here to learn, we're all
here to learn.
Not to get offended by people being who they are.
Exactly. And welcome, Haley. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, KOC Champ.
Woohoo, we got the whole crew in here. Intoxicated again, KOC? Nah. That would not be KOC.
And I know, what could go wrong with a bunch of trannies kicking balls? I mean, come on, people. I think that would outsell all the other leagues. I'm just saying.
I mean, you could make, shouldn't get too political because we don't normally get too political on this. And,
I know.
I think it's, I think we try to avoid politics because on this channel, we're all atheists. That means we all agree on one thing. We don't believe in God. Aside from that, we have a wide assortment of views on a lot of different issues. And so I think it's time that we take a look at and acknowledge the 5,000-pound Trannyosaurus in the room, because Amy happens to be transgender and her friend Sam is transgender. And that's not really politics. That's just them being them. That's who they are. And they're both great people. Amy's a great co-host to come and talk to about all sorts of issues relating to atheism, theology, philosophy. And aside from that, why would her gender identity matter to anybody else? What business is that? How does it hurt anybody else? It doesn't, unless you just like to hate people because you just like to hate people for bad reasons. So
exactly. And I find that the people who it triggers the most are just the fundies. I commonly bring up Mr. Batman if you'd like to join us, but my goddess, I triggered him just by existing. I could not get him onto the topic of theology or back onto the topic of theology. It was like, I get it. I'm transgender. Calm down. You want to pronoun me wrong, that's fine, but you have to get off like the first sentence, right? I get it. Pronouns, good. Okay. Theology.
yes, just make sure to be as offensive and as possible while staying completely off topic.
Exactly. Uh-oh, Sam, someone wants you to go there. They want you to offend. We got this.
Oh, all right. Take your time. Jeez.
That's right. Pace yourself.
We're not quite ready for those balls to be kicked yet.
For real though. I never. First of all, is my mic on? Yeah. I don't see the thing. Is it?
Ogre in the house, and I heart you back.
Anyway, I suck shit because I never make a monologue. I never make a monologue. Sorry, I forget how this works.
No, you're fine.
Anyway,
what's on your mind?
For me, it was right from the very beginning. Just the whole freaking stereotype boxes that we're supposed to be squeezed into just because of our junk, really, and what they assume we will grow up into. Right from the get-go, I knew I could not share the fact that I always thought girls' clothes were cuter and that they get to wear whatever they want versus me. You know, I just have to wear whatever my parents have said, okay, because you're a boy. Bullshit. And they always looked like they had more fun because they can go anywhere, be anything, and just everybody likes girls. If you're a guy, you just blend into the background scenery. You know, nobody gives a shit about you. And all around, it just they made me jealous. Of women from the get-go. You know, like they get to look how they want, they get to act how they want. You know, they get to hold on to some childish things longer than men are allowed to. They're the center of attention most of the time. All right, and people like usually bend over backwards for women, especially when you know when they like you. And something I learned from Amy was it's a hard truth, but people treat you better when you're attractive. And that's not biased. That's hard truth. And it's true. It is true. And so deep down, I've spent my entire life trying to diagnose myself and figure out why I am the way I am for tons of things. Just gender's just one. And I realized I just wanted to be treated better. I just wanted to have the freedom of expression and to be recognized, and to be treated better, to be included, invited, to be wanted, and not just cast aside like another mold of a man. And I'm so sick of my family, my cult, my ethnicity, the church just pushing me, just everywhere you see it, in television, in songs, in all kinds of art and stories, how it's so bad. It's so bad to be soft. I'm among the same rank as like molesters or thieves or you know, like rapists and stuff like that. Like, just because I don't want to grow up to be the kind of men you are, is that so bad? You know, and I stand by the parents, just let their fucking kids be. Honestly, the harder you push them into the closet, the harder they're gonna want to explore this. If you just let your kids find their identity when they're in high school, when they have nothing to worry about but their grades, the time that they're supposed to do this, then they can grow up when they're supposed to, and during their 20s, set off finding their career. Instead, I had to go through my teenage years in my 20s. And not just, with my identity and finding out who I was or gender. No, really, with just socializing it all. Like, I was a sheltered child, and not in the good way. It wasn't helicopter parents, making sure I never got hurt. It was helicopter parents, police helicopter parents, okay, with guns, because they didn't trust me. They didn't think I could operate on my own. And then I was thrown out suddenly when my mother started dating someone outside the culture, outside, and he's like, "What the hell are you doing to this kid?" But I didn't know how to talk to people. I didn't know how to express what was going on inside me. I just so sick of being pushed into the boxes that now I just violently reject that. And I am not afraid of whose feelings I hurt. I've been ready to lose my entire family. Fuck them. I forget to call them anyway. But lucky for me, they do call. They do still love me. And for the most part, they acknowledge it. I can tell who accepts it and who doesn't want to, but that's just too bad. I'm really happy that I still have a family, and I just started, oh my God, it feels so great. I just started my first job as a woman this year, January, like the first Monday of January. The funny thing is, I could have done it back in like 2015, but I didn't notice. I didn't think I was ready yet, because it took me years to figure out, trying to be one, trying to be the other, mixing and matching. And I'm tired of playing the identity game. I just want to be happy. And I found how I'm most happiest. And even without pressure from the outside, without harassment and whatnot, people act differently to me, whether I present male and how I do it, or female. And it kind of sucked to realize that at first, more people liked me because of the male persona I created, but it was fake. It really was fake, and I couldn't hold that character forever. It sucked, because like I wanted to a relationship, right? Preferably with a woman. Men, okay, fine, whatever. But usually I got more positive reactions when I was someone else, when I was someone who I really wasn't on the inside. It's like a double-edged sword. I could pretend to be something that works very well, but is not me, and get all this attention. Or I could take the risk, be alone for a while, and just be myself, and find someone that really likes me, is really going to stick around for the long run. And that's just like, my personal story. We'll get into the raunchy stuff later.
No, that was great. I think that's a pretty good intro to where you had your journey and where you're at right now. And so yeah, I think it's interesting that we are kind of the hot topic of the moment. I feel like that is both a double-edged sword. I feel it's exciting that this is both our time. I feel like we've never had so many people. We've never had so many detractors, but so many defenders too. So shout out to really a cultural shift. We couldn't have done it without really just the biological heterosexual people out there who have kind of been putting their arms up and just saying, no, it's not cool to just be an asshole. Another thing I want to talk about, how do you guys feel about language? I feel like the worst thing that the liberals do to themselves, because even though I am on probably team liberal, is just the language. I don't like the words like cis, but I like words like biological. I don't like I'm not 100% on like words like transphobia, but I think someone who's pronouncing someone wrong is a cunt. What do you guys think on that kind of strategy? I just feel like it's not that the liberals are wrong and that people aren't being assholes. Oh, Satan got James. What do you think, Sam? What do you think? Because the word, I just have a problem with the word cis. It just sounds ugly to me. I don't know. Maybe time for us to offend transgender people. And yet I like that we have allies. I don't want to. What do you think?
So, I think there needs to be a line in the sand. I'm actually aggravated by all the new labels that keep popping up on the internet. According to the internet, I'm like 11 different sexualities and 3 different genders.
Exactly.
Yeah, I could literally write them all down and read them out and sound like a total dumbass in Fantasyland. But I like to keep it simple because we're not talking to everyone that we meet is not either not educated or not empathetic enough. They could be geniuses, but cut right through, your little rose-colored world.
Or they just don't know the subject. This isn't their neck of the woods.
I don't think we need the label cis. Cis is, I swear, just from an outsider's point of view, cis sounds adding a prefix to the age-old, basic clinical terminologies for the basic sexes of our species. Sounds like you want them to be in the same boat. We are not the norm. You need to understand that. We are not the norm. Okay, there's gender, and then now that we have the science and technology, there is transgender. It's a thing. It's a possibility. Okay, we don't need to suddenly turn around and call them cisgendered. No, they've been here the whole time. We haven't. Yes, we've mentally, behaviorally, oh yeah, we've had men living as women living as men throughout history. But what we can do to ourselves now, and the rights that we demand, and our new protected status, that is new. And you can't just turn around and make it seem like, oh, this is your boat, we're in our boat. You have your own boat. No, they don't have a boat. They're the ocean.
And from a marketing standpoint, it just seems like something you want to pop. Like, I got a cis on my face. Oh, do you have a cis male or a cis female on your face? It's just bad marketing.
Right.
Yeah, I've never been happy with that term. Even though I'm obviously not anti-trans, I've just never found it to be a useful or helpful term to be labeled cis.
I have 2 things on that. Is that Donald, absolutely. I would love to do an entire episode. Not only would I love to do that, but you have found a match. Sam is into linguistics. That's also her thing. Right? I believe so, right? So we can have a whole thing. And then James,
Donald
what are your thoughts?
Like a lingual master. He is he writes languages in his spare time. He's a linguistic genius.
But what do you hear when you hear the word cis? Does it? I feel like some people like it because they feel like we're an ally. I'm a cis female. I'm a cis male. But at the same time, does it do more harm than good? What are your thoughts?
I don't know. I mean, like I said, I've never really been a fan of using the term. I think it's an additional, redundant, unnecessary term, and it just sounds more aggressive in a way, as if they're hostile towards cis people, or as if they think that cis people would automatically be hostile towards them, when in fact a great number of them aren't. The majority now aren't hostile towards transgender people. So
So
Sorry, I was clicking.
I really don't recognize most of the words that come out of the internet unless I can tell by the effort that they're trying to sound clinical and scientific. For instance, the only word in the past 10, 20 years that I can stand behind is intersex. And that is a much better replacement for what most people know as hermaphrodite. And these poor fuckers, oh my god, everyone always pulls the same card. What about hermaphrodites? What about hermaphrodites? Like, I do not envy being the one intersex individual in the room when someone pulls that card. Because, like, fuck, everybody turns to you and wants to know what's in your pants. Well, now that happens to trans people. It's like the first question that's on their mind. Like, what the I'm an entire person. You know, that's one of the things, like, now you know how women feel. Like, they only see you as a walking set of gonads. Like, you're like, what the fuck? Honestly, like, and that just lets you would think by saying something like that out loud, they'd realize, oh, I'm being a total idiot right now, and I'm being totally immature. But just like when it comes to debating religion, even when they say something out loud that was clearly impossible, they stand by it because it's their go-to ideology. Like, what the fuck? Amy, you went quiet.
I keep on forgetting there's two different mutes. There's a mute on my microphone and a mute here. And I just want to say an awesome hello to Jim, an awesome hello to Tara, and of course, Titan Uranus. Just love to open my vocals. But yeah, I agree. And I'm trying to think if there's subjects dealing with this that aren't political. The two big T girls, or the big T girl seems to have been Caitlyn Jenner, which I find is ironic. I feel like she has like a cold hot thing in the community, and then Elliot Page with the trans man. It's interesting that there seems to be icons, but I also understand why they're icons, because I think to the public's eye, these are two people that were personified or looked up to as either masculine and feminine, and so the switch is very surprising. I think that's really what this where the fuss comes from.
I really don't pay much attention to Caitlyn Jenner or any celebrities, but as far as that case, I'm gonna call that a case. As far as that case went, at first it sounded like, oh, this is just a publicity stunt because this person was on the Kardashians and they're just trying to get famous about, for being famous. Like we've seen Paris Hilton get famous hanging around Nicole Richie, or however that happened. And so, okay, you're on this reality TV show and you want more attention, fine. But then, I don't know when, I saw an episode or just a clip of the Kardashians, whatever, before Jenner came out. And what I see is this man who is clearly in the closet. Like, his hair was done, his face was done, he had a ball cap on trying to hide. Like, you're clearly transitioning, at least trying, like, under the radar. But it takes one to know one. So I don't know if Jenner really did it for themselves, or just it was a planned stunt that they just built up to and dropped. I don't know. I don't care. But I just think there's other better icons. Oh my god. In the media, like Laverne Cox, please.
And yeah, well, like, it shows the dichotomy. It's really never the quote unquote community that picks them. Speaking of the community, is that me? Why am I here? So, Oh no, that's James. But that's funny. I was about to
What
ask
was
you
it?
something, James.
What'd you
It
hear?
sounded like wind.
Oh yeah, because I'm
Or something.
outside.
No, but you were just talking about once again being in the center, or how should I put this? We've had some pushback, a reactionary from some will say, well, the T shouldn't be on the LGB. I actually think the T should be on LGB because I think they share similar issues. I'll acknowledge
I mean, it's
that
just
being yes.
You have to be hella gay to go trans. It doesn't matter. You have to.
My thing is just that they have similar goals, and just to fractal it at this point would be silly. I understand, some of the gay guys and the lesbians, because probably not the bis, because they're flirting with us, but they're like, listen, T girls, you're a little bit extra. Do we really have to put our limb out so that we can? And I understand it's annoying, but at the same time, it's just like the atheist community. It's kind of a big tent thing. And the
We
only
really
way
don't need, I'm sorry, we really don't need all these labels. The rainbow flag is the fucking spectrum because it's meant to include everybody. Even straight people. The rainbow flag is meant to include even straight people. Like, what the fuck?
Come on, Ange. Well, I mean, that's the curse of being bi. We like straights. So we're like, come on, gay, straight, whatever. Yeah. Yeah, that's my joke every time that someone goes. It's not that Satan got James. It's that Satan recruited James because clearly we know what team we're. Yeah, because clearly we know what team we're on.
Oh. I mean, how many babies have you sacrificed to the devil today alone, Amy?
Only 3, but I need to up my quota. I've been slowing down lately.
Yeah, I bet Sam beat you. Got you beat today.
And it's terrible. What were you gonna say?
I just got a KFC bucket of baby legs, and that's called a day.
Oh, see, there you go. I mean, how else are you gonna protect your firstborn son? It says it right here in the Big Book of Science. A kid, Theus. We love you. We love you. And
like the devil?
Like the devil.
We love you like the devil.
And so I figured we'll go either for another, either from the 20 minutes, or we'll go on till maybe an hour, and then we'll open it open mic. See, I think Tara has some things they want to say. But this has actually been enjoyable. Trying to think what else to talk about.
It would be nice to hear from Tara because maybe he could talk about that dichotomy between the LGB and the T, the question about that additional letter on there that seems to be causing trouble.
Yep, and there's the Q, there's the queer. Some people have, trying to reclaim the word. I mean, I understand that too.
At some point, it gets so divisive that you're working against the main goal, to unite everyone who's been outcasted for being different.
Yes, and I'll change it just a little bit. What do you guys think of just this type of sexuality in the atheist community? I actually think I know we're dragging Sam in, but it's actually been pretty welcoming. I feel like I have felt very welcoming in the atheist community. I feel like I have more defenders and more friendly people than not, which may not be the voice that everyone's talking about, but I feel welcome. Thoughts?
Absolutely, yeah. I don't know if anybody really in the atheist community who's opposed to or harbors any hatred towards transgender people.
Yeah.
Because it would have to be founded on some other disagreement besides religious purposes. Or else they'll just sound like a total tool.
Right. I mean, where would you get such an idea aside from religion, which doesn't really base it on reality or logic or anything. It's just an arbitrary commandment from an old book.
Perhaps a biology elitist.
And I haven't heard direct testimony, but on just so many, on the different platforms, time and time again, I've heard, I didn't want to hate these people, but the book told me to. And the moment that I left, it was like, why am I hating these people anymore? And then the hate just dissipated because it was like, oh, of course, it was the book. It was the book. Not, or the religion.
Well, I can say in my case, the hate, I gave up on that before I gave up on the religion. But I mean, some people it's both ways, you know. I mean, look at even today, most Christian people, they're becoming more and more accepting towards
very true
gay, lesbian, transgender people. But it's not unanimous or universal, but it's getting more open, I think.
And yes, a shout out to the metaphorical Christians, Muslims, Jews that actually treat LGBTQ, whatever, people nicely and with dignity. I mean, that's really the only thing that I think I care about, because everything else is just an intellectual discussion. So welcome, Dave. Dave Gar. This is my I don't know how to do a symbol. Okay.
Absolutely, yeah. We don't want people who are assholes in the community. There's plenty of them out there, but we don't need to be associating with them.
Yeah, we don't need to create dumpster fires or hate. And you know what? We don't schism that often, and so it's hard to separate us when we're not constantly schisming every other day.
Skizzing?
Yes.
Skizzing all over that?
Oh, baby, schism.
Did you read were you here for our Bible study last? She must have been listening.
Yes.
Yeah, I contributed without even knowing it.
Were you having fun? It actually looked like we won you over last night, Sam. It was fun.
Yeah, I just love to joke about shit. I just had other business to tend to. Sorry about that.
Oh no! You did exactly what was the thing. Be there as long as you can, and then say a good piece.
Listen about Jacob and the lesbian.
Exactly. A good Jacob Slatter and the lesbian.
I was like, I can only imagine what kind of names you're going to come up with for everyone in the Bible.
I want everyone to know that's listening that the names of these titles are the most proud. Forget being transgender. The fact that I came up with the title Trannyosaurus, the most proud. That is the height.
If I were on stage as a comedian like you, I would say I'm a transformer, cobalt in disguise. And our call sign would be auto thoughts, roll out.
Say that's good too. Roll out.
So when Mr. Batman is talking about science and about how dinosaurs obviously lived with man, yeah, you can throw in the Trannysaurus.
Exactly.
We still do live with man, you can tell him.
But do we come from monkeys and pond scum?
Yeah.
Dab. Don't mind me dabbing every once in a while.
Knowing you, I thought you meant the other kind of dabbing.
Dab. That would be interesting. If I ever do DMT in a podcast, all right, everyone, the lizards, they're coming. We need to
dab,
say
not DMT. Dab is something else.
What did you think I was saying? There's only how many dabs are there, or tabs?
I meant dab like in the dab rig for the concentrated THC.
There. Yes. Oh, that works too.
Not a dab of acid or dab of whatever the fuck you said. DMC. No. And those are called tabs.
Yeah. But I agree with Titan. It seems that...
Oh, yes. Donald's got it right there.
LGBTQ BBQ. All these new names need to...
Like Abraham barbecuing his son, or preparing to barbecue his son.
Oh, here's a good topic to bring up hate. How does everyone feel about TERF? The funny thing about TERFs is they seem the most offended by the word TERF. But it's like, listen, lady, I'm a tranny. You're a TERF. Don't try to hide what you are. Be what you.
Yeah, we're gonna get to that. The words, like, that is the shit that just like offends most trans people that shouldn't. Oh my god, yeah. Like Amy and I say tranny all the fucking time because we are.
Because we're trannies. Why hide it?
All right. Like, I don't care who you are. You want to shoot me, fine. But it is our N-word. It really is. It is a slur made for us to hate ourselves, but we turned it around, use it like a weapon or like armor, and now we use it as a term of endearment. Okay? And we can say it, but not you. So go fuck yourself. Just like any racial slur.
And if you're a trans-exclusive, radical feminist, wear the goddamn term. That's all we're asking. And they could come on here and defend. I would love them too. I hate nobody. It's just like the feminists. Just because I disagree with you doesn't mean I hate you or anything like that. Ooh, excuse me. Let's see. Trying to think of any other topics before we make it open mic. I got some questions if you want to link me in. Yep, we're about to, I think,
I got
go open.
topics for you. Fucking the bullshit that comes from the trans community when they get all spiritual and shit. I'm sorry. No, I'm not anyone else in some other body. I'm me. You cut me open.
That's
you're
a
gonna
good
see
point.
Bone, muscle, sinew, and organs. Okay, I admit it. I was born a man. I don't want.
But that's what transgender is. That's the entire point.
So I accept that. I admit it. I embrace it. But I am not gonna stay that way. I'm doing something about it. Okay. There's no female inside a man's body. I'm sorry. That's just horseshit.
No, I agree 100%. I understand. Once again, it goes back into PR. I think what early transgenders in the community were trying to do was give an analogy, but I think that some people took that a little bit too crazy. Like, not crazy, that's not the right word. It snowballed because I don't view that I'm trapped in the wrong body. I now feel like I have overcome, oh baby, gender dysphoria. I think it took a diagnosis and a journey and, really metaphorically soul searching to get there. But then once you become who you like, who you are, to me, the whole point is that, okay, you set your character. Now the whole point is, that's paper. Now the whole point is to go out and go journey. It's not to focus so much on your outside, because then it becomes completely superficial, but you want to look like who you are inside and out. Once you do that, hopefully you can go do life, go do food shopping, pay your taxes, can't hold it, and do all sorts of fun stuff.
Always paper on your hand there.
Always paper. I was writing my taxes down. I'm sorry. You don't know who Ken Hovind is. That's okay, Sam. What were you talking about?
They know who he is.
They know.
An example of what you don't want to happen, which is the opposite of what you just everything you just said, is those individuals who transition and then that's all they are.
Yes.
They're suddenly huge trans activists.
That's one of my points.
And, like, microaggressions, offended, lawsuits. Oh god, fucking us! They just become like this over-the-top, overzealous activist
You're triggering me, Sam. You're triggering me.
Lose their
I'm
personality.
just kidding. I heart everyone out there.
Oh yeah, triggering? Fucking no. There needs to be a line. Okay, I admit. I'm not saying we should all go around being bullies and assholes to each other. Those 4 years have ended, thank God. But at the same time, I'm not saying let's all live in our little fantasy worlds and put on rose-colored glasses. Like, to be honest, I will indulge people who believe that to a certain amount. Like, we can go inside your house, have a tea party, and I can call you whatever fucking pronouns you want to make up, because they do. They do make up shit online. But as soon as we're out in the real world, pretend time is over, sweetheart. Pretend time is over. Okay, we're both adults. Okay, we're trans. Or if you're not trans, then you're fucking whatever the fuck your body is. I'm sorry with the NBs and the asexuals. Okay, asexuals, I understand if you don't want to have sex. Cool, that's a real thing. But this non-binary stuff, like,
well,
you are what you.
It's funny you say that, because I think Terra is non-binary, and if I'm straw manning you, Terra, then you'll be able to tell me soon.
Sorry, Sarah, if I insulted you. I'm really sorry. I do respect how you view yourself, but
I haven't heard him say that he's non-binary, but
oh really?
he
Then
was
maybe
pan.
I am.
I thought Tara
oh
was
yeah,
pan,
you're right.
but
You're right. Oh my
I don't think
goddess,
he's
I'm
non-binary,
so
but-
sorry, Tara. But there was someone else that came on the channel that was actually non-binary. I've dated two non-binary people. But to me, it's just about finding out who you are, and getting there. And once you're able to get there, then doing the other thing. And we'll talk about maybe one or two more things, and then it seems there's some people that want to talk. What do you guys think about this whole battle over the words and labels over things like mental illness and stuff, delusion and stuff? You guys have any thoughts? I have a few thoughts, but I figured I'd ask you guys.
it's all about how you explain yourself. If you don't know how to explain yourself, you're going to sound crazy. And the ones who are educated with malintent will make you, they will document it, they will record you, they will play it out for everyone else to hear to make you sound crazy. And they'll ride that train as hard as they can, right? But if you know how to explain yourself, like, and stick it to, again, cold, hard realism, because that's the only way you can get your point across without being made to sound like a lunatic, okay? I know what I am. I don't like that. I know I can change that. There are resources. I'm going to take advantage of that. I know what I'm becoming, so you're not going to stop me. Simple as that. You don't got to get into spirituality. You don't got to say, this is how I really feel on the inside. You don't got to say there's another side of me or stuff like that, because they're going to come up with any mental disorder they can find in that book. The DSM-6 now? What, 6? And stick it on you. And your
666.
Your entire argument is going to.
It's a good addition.
Yeah. So
666.
For instance, and here's something that most trans people aren't going to agree with either. It's something that Amy helped me get over. Because plenty of people are afraid of starting this out because they're worried about, like, what if it doesn't work, or if I'm not pretty, or if I never become like a woman or become a man. Just accept the fact that you may never become what you want to be in your head, and just do it anyway. Just do it anyway. Okay? And you'll get far, or not, but you'll get somewhere. For me, this is the moment of truth. I think I'll never be an actual woman, and that's fine by me. Because it's physically impossible. It's physically impossible. That's fine by me. And I would call myself an artificial woman because it makes fucking sense. But I'll still be a woman. I'll still live the life, behave the way, I still be a reasonable, respectable, respectful adult and demand respect as well in return. And I will be a woman, just an artificial one, man-made.
Yeah, and I would say the difference to me is I just use there's a biological woman, transgender woman, biological male, transgender male. It's not that sex isn't real. Sex is real. It's just that we
Yes.
have correlations in society where roles and situations are generally, not always, because then you get the people that are well, what about a masculine, what about Sarah? She likes to make her living jackhammering. Is she a man? Well, no, Sarah's not a man just because she likes to jackhammer. It just tends to be, for me, that I feel more than the 50% over on female, to the point where living in a masculine role would be it just be like throwing roadblocks in my way of trying to actually do my life and be successful. So it's just Western society has two boxes: the gender of male and the female, the feminine and the masculine. I know what I was born like, just like you're saying. It's not like, which is another point I wanted to bring up. I feel like sometimes, I'm not going to say the religious, because then I feel like I'm throwing the liberal theists under the bus. So I'll just say the people who oppose us think that we just go, okay, what do our chromosomes look like? And we take out our chromosome and we open it up and we go, okay, our chromosome is of this today. It's like, no, we don't care. It's not about what the chromosome expression looks like. It's that, we feel this way. And this is the one situation, because we're skeptics and free thinkers and rationalists and all this other stuff, but this is the one situation where emotions and thoughts and all this stuff actually matter, because you have to deal with yourself every day. You have to look yourself in the mirror. I know, friggin' Satan. And okay, ladies and gentlemen, Sam, did you have any more extra thoughts before? It's not that we're closing out, but before we open up for some open mic.
They will come up as they come up. Yeah, I just had some bones to pick about what I hear within the trans community that I think is just not true. and I would really wish people would stop spouting that shit. Because
exactly.
then we all look like we say that. Like the trigger, like I am not that weak.
You need a safe space? You need a safe space?
I do not need a safe space. But I guess, you know what? You keep testing me, and you're gonna need a safe space. Okay, how about that?
And it's both. I honestly, it's the liberals and the conservatives. It's not even political. It's what both sides do. They be doing what they be doing, which is a tautology. What is. We're back to the rules of logic. But
you don't think it be like it is, but it do.
But exactly. I think we all just need to smoke more ganja in the long run, and everyone will chill out on this whole gender stuff. And I think in 10 or 20 years, I think everyone's going to calm down.
Seriously. They fucking need to.
And okay, we're going to open it up if anyone would like to join the stream. Sending
You're
it
gonna
out.
open it up, Amy, really. Wow.
We're open it up because we're almost at about the first hour. So we're going to do about another hour of this, and then I think that will set it. I like the new sweet spot is between about an hour and a half, 3 hours. And Tara, welcome to the stream. Boom.
I look so fat.
You look good.
Sam. Where do I start?
Fucking hormones got me eating so much.
First off, I'll start with this. I didn't expect to, get this in my subscription feed because
Trannies.
Yeah. I mean, I also, it's because this is my personal account. Like, I was texting in chat on my YouTube account, which if you want to, you can go subscribe. That'd be nice.
Go subscribe.
It's I've been reconsidering my position on, like, I've been like hard stopping, like, you know what, I don't want to do political or religious content. And this is actually one of the topics. This topic right here. This is the political topic that I just kind of step away because it gets real terrifying sometimes.
And we don't have to be politicized, that's the thing. But we are, so fuck it, whatever.
I mean, like, you know, Turf Island exists, and it's not my fault that J.K. Rowling had to literally stomp on my childhood. You know?
I don't give a fuck. Oh my god.
See, that's such a complicated thing, and it's yeah, exactly. I could almost do a whole podcast on that. But
I
yeah,
still like.
I know, I like her too. I don't want to cancel her, but she's bringing this drama on herself at the same time, so it's hard to feel bad for her too.
Well, she's a Leo, and speaking for Leos, even though I don't believe that star signs dictate your personality, we can be really stubborn. And it's not even just like, and it's clear that, at least for me, that J.K. Rowling's stubborn, but I'm not going to get into that.
Okay.
I'm a Leo. I'm stubborn.
Around because regardless of signs and astrology, whatever, we all hear cognitive dissonance, right? You know, being too practiced. I think of it as, you know, Orwellian terms, doublethink. To know the truth but accept the lie, you know, for terms of survival or just blending society. Anyway, I see this practiced with plenty of other artists and musicians that spout just filthy, hateful material, and their record sales are still, you know, topping the charts. Just to use one example, Eminem, for instance, or pretty much any kind of like hardcore rap. I like the product, right? It's like, if you listen to it, God, he's misogynist, he's sexist, he's homophobic, transphobic.
He's irreverent.
Exactly. And I don't know what the producer is like. I don't care about the producer, to be honest. This may be a terrible point of view. I don't give a shit about the producer or their ideals. All I care about is the product. I don't care about J.K. Rowling. Good for her. Let her live in her own little hate bubble. Don't give a shit. Harry Potter series, it was dope. It was dope. Leave it as it is. All right? Just leave it the fuck alone.
I mean, actually, I got a quick opener. And then we can let Ogre in if you don't mind.
And we're gonna let Ogre in, and so Tara, we're gonna let you finish your response, and then your opener. Then we're gonna let Ogre in and have his opener, and then we're gonna let Donald in. He's gonna have his opener. And okay, sounds good. How you doing, Tara? How do you feel about Trannyosaurus rexes and all things sex, gender, sexuality?
I love that title, by the way. It's okay. So one of the things that resonated with me whenever I heard about this is that I can't use the T slur. I'm non-conforming cis.
That's okay.
But, you know, I'm aware that we've reclaimed words in the past. You know, like, I love Sam's way of saying it's basically our N-word. But for me, it's like, you know, it's I think that is definitely, quote-unquote, true. Just reclaim the word. It's not, I think it seems like there's, like, a schism in the trans community, especially around my age. Because, like, I'm a Zoomer, like, 23.
The same thing goes with bitch.
Yeah.
That's women's N-word. Like, depending on how they use it, they can get away with it because they were the disenfranchised group, still are. So fuck you. They're gonna make it for themselves and use it how they want to.
I mean, I think that, like, you know, it goes into, like, at least for me, like, one of the ways I've sort of coped with this stuff is that whenever I think about this topic, I tend to think that this topic shouldn't be. It's like climate change for me. It shouldn't be politicized. Yet here we are. I have to acknowledge, like, the political elephants in the room, but
or like,
I'm not going to now because I'm a chicken. I'm chickening away. But yeah, same thing with coronavirus too. But it's at least my opening statement is, like, you know, I think that we're making good progress on basically the alphabet mafia agenda, or the GRSM agenda, as I found out in chat. I
love that. I love Alphabet Mafia. There's also Quilt Bag, which is great. I think Quilt Bag is perfect. They just the same thing, just rearranged letters. QUILTBAG. You can guess what they stand for, but just like it's easy to say, it's an acronym. And who really has quilt bags? Old ladies and gay people, because that's it.
I feel offended. I have a quilt bag somewhere, but it's but the reason why I say that is because like as a pansexual, I like to feel like I'm part of a mafia. So I want to get. Sometimes whenever I hear like this sort of like dead name crap, I feel like I want to pull like my mafia side. Like I'm gonna like get them in like a dark alley. Like I quote ContraPoints. I don't want acceptance, damn it. I want converts. I don't want to merely be quote unquote accepted. I want to basically live the same dysfunctional normal life everyone else has.
Correct. Yeah. I haven't seen her channel yet, but I've seen some funny little gifs and shit. I like her.
So with that, I'm actually gonna bring Ogre in. Ogre, welcome. How are you? What are your feelings on Tyrannosaurus Rexes and all things sexuality, sex, gender?
I also came to tell you, Ogre, that I feel like that if you're not part of the Alphabet Mafia, you're outnumbered 3-2, so tread carefully.
I am not part of the Alphabet Mafia. I am in the minority.
Quick, Sam, get him!
Sorry. I'm very much a minority around here.
Careful, we have cooties. Very careful. I hope you have your cootie shot, because this is how this happens. But yes, Ogre, how are you?
I'm doing fine. I wanted to come in here because I live in a secluded homogeneous community, and it's good to converse with people that aren't like me and try to help me figure out my own opinions on things. So when this all goes around again and we can get to asking questions, I'm just looking forward to getting your takes on stuff. So,
woohoo! Yeah, I like this, and it's good. Now we have kind of like a mix of all types of people, so we'll get a good back and forth. And I will let Donald in. Donald, are you still with us? How are you tonight? What are your feelings on Tyrannosauruses and sex, gender, rock and roll?
Donald in particular's opinion is fascinating to me because as a writer, I use words. He's a linguist. He makes words.
Yeah,
I hate words.
I missed most of what was said in the chat. I tried to go back and look at it once in a while. I was really busy, and I'd go in there once in a while and try to catch up. And the vast majority of it wasn't showing up because I didn't realize I had it on top chat, not live chat. So, it's something to try to not forget. I did, after I switched it, notice that Nicole had mentioned having been working on making a fictitious language. I'd like to get a look at it sometime. I'm interested in that sort of thing.
So I'll tell you the blend real quick. I'm basing it off the Udo-Escazicani language, Native American branch, and because I wanted to like sort of give it like a more Polynesian feel, I'm looking into like Polynesian language families right now while I do research on that regard. So your
language is meant to be a language blend.
Yeah, it's because like
Esperanto.
Yeah.
Well, actually, long before I had ever heard of Esperanto, I made my first language called Pont, which was meant more to be a language bridging system than a language, although I did build it originally as a language. And the idea was to make a system of how to build a specific way to merge two languages or more together. And when I ran into Esperanto, I used the rules of Pont to exchange most of its grammar and vocabulary with Esperanto vocabulary and grammar. And later on, basically forgot what it started with. But I mean, it was mainly mathematical based originally.
That's cool.
Okay,
the language part.
Donald, do you have any thoughts on any of this gender stuff? On any of
a whole lot of it.
Transgender people?
something I think it was Sam had mentioned earlier, might have even been you. I'm not sure because this was way back earlier in the program. But the sort of origin story of having gone through this process of figuring out who and what you are. I went through kind of the reverse because I mean
Dun dun
I
dun.
as far back as I have any memories at all of thinking anything about genders, if anybody had called me a stereotypical male, I would have been insulted. Had no problem with being called masculine, but don't dare call me stereotypical anything, especially not stereotypical male, because I would have considered that to be a strong insult.
Like toxic masculinity and sort of that sort of baggage with it.
Yeah, and so in that sense, I had a sort of gender euphoria, but at the same time, I was okay with being male. I just didn't want to be considered a stereotypical male, and I was the only boy that I know of in my entire school that carried a purse. My mom had a purse that gotten old. She got a new one, and I wanted it. It was a nice thing to carry stuff in, and my parents. I'm not sure what their exact reaction to that was, but they didn't give me like a real hard time about it or anything. It's like, okay, I want to carry a purse. That's me. That's me as an individual. And I think they recognized there was some gender things tied to that, and some of the kids might tease me about it or whatever. But so what? I'm making my own choice, and in that sense, I think if I had been pushed, if I had been pushed in that sense, I might have ended up thinking of myself as like, my feminine side is being hidden. I'm a female trying to get out of a male body. But because nobody pushed me, it never went that way. And I have no problem with considering myself, for the most part, completely male. But I do have a feminine side. I do have some things about me that many people, if they knew me well, would recognize as that's kind of feminine. Like, I don't care.
That was me then. That was me.
I think that
my speculation that if you just let the kids experiment, then they're not going to come out as extreme as you fear,
I think that, let them be themselves instead of trying to put them in one corner and making them run to the other corner. Why not just let them be who they are?
That's exactly what I was saying.
I mean, we have like these sort of, I don't think we've noticed it. We have maybe noticed it in like the sort of abstractions, but not in the minute details. But like there are like sort of activities that we consider gendered, unfortunately. Sewing is more feminine, boxing is more masculine. Right. And, it kind of goes into like, how I've basically been labeling myself as I say that I'm cisgender male. I hate cisgender as like a categorical term because I feel like it gets too many into candy worms. But so the replacement term I've been practicing around is basically nonconformity, which shorts to non-con.
Good night.
Which basically means for me, like I practice a lot more non-conforming. Both masculine and feminine activities. Like in my sort of like framework, I like to box and do martial arts, but I also like makeup and I also like, sewing and other sort of like gender words that we've, I think at least associated with English. Cause like we're to like bring into like, I'm going to bring Donald into this, but like, let's say we were to like bring Japanese into this. Japanese languages actually have a genderless word for they, them that they use. Kami have also been associated with in Japanese mythology as like forces of nature that can, sometimes be gendered or sometimes not be. So it kind of plays into like this, as far as I think humans put words down to the page or recited them, I think we've had concepts of gendered activities in like a sort of vague sense.
What Nico's talking about kind of leads a bit into one of my questions I had.
Yeah.
If you don't mind.
Ask away.
All right. I guess before I go forward is I am very, I guess I'm classic guy, never had any qualms about it like Donald was saying or something like that. So I it's a good thing I'm asking these questions because the vast variety of people here.
Absolutely.
But so Nicole was very much talking about cultural associations with stuff, right? And if you could grant me this hypothetical, we're in a dystopian future. There is no tangible way to tell gender. Everyone wears potato sacks for clothing. There are no masculine, feminine, what have you. Do you think trans would still be a thing in a society where the well, you kind of get what I'm saying, right? Is trans a thing in a society like that?
It might be.
Have a good night.
The problem with that scenario is it destroys the dimorphism. I mean, if you're gonna say that at a certain point, all like there's 50% boys and 50% girls like dolls, like doing their hair and stuff like that. I mean, if it ever gets to the point where we're at this future genderless
post-gender society
thing,
sort of thing.
but I very much doubt that's going to happen. I think
I think I can
There would
envision what
still
he
be-
was saying better, and I have an answer for it when you're done.
Sure.
Could I add one thing before you do, Sam?
So
Just
Donald,
momentarily?
give an answer, and then Sam.
Just
I'm
just
pointing at
wanted
the
to say,
computer. I should be pointing at my phone.
even in that hypothetical, I can picture people basically wanting to know the equivalent of, are you carrying a dangerous weapon between your legs?
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
So what he's saying is, if you took away all the supposedly gendered features that we have created for ourselves over centuries or millennia, and everyone looked exactly the same. Like,
Yeah.
everyone was absolutely, completely androgynous.
Like the Goobax episode of South Park, sort of, yeah.
Like there's still different shades of brown, but like no
Sure.
hair, and we're all hairless, and we all have like smooth features, and because we evolved for some reason. The next species of humans, Homo sapiens, something, whatever. And the only way you could tell was that by stripping people naked, like, oh, you are XY, or oh, you are XX. I think there would still be trans people because, like I said, and this is going to sound ridiculous, but some people, if the only thing that separates them is the ability to give life or sustain life, virility versus fertility, some people are going to choose one or the other. Some are going to be like, well, damn, pregnancy
For
looks
sure.
awesome. Or
Yeah,
hey,
and some would be like, I don't want to go through that.
exactly.
Yeah.
Some will be like, well, I menstruate and this really hurts more than every other female around me. I'm done with this shit, and they will physically change their bodies. So at the base level, the very base level, and this is what I tell other people who are considering transitioning even today, unless you're physically unhappy with your body, don't do it. Don't do it. Because everything else is up to you. You can wear whatever the fuck you want, talk however you want, walk however you want, act however you want, call yourself however you want. We got proof of it today. We have proof. The only reason you should ever transition is if you're unhappy with your physical body and you want to change it. I am.
If you have actual dysphoria,
Well,
I think it's worth it.
I would rather have that.
Can I add a bit to that?
Yeah. What?
Let Sam finish your statement, and then yes, you can.
Yeah,
I would
No, you're fine.
even
now.
if you take all the clothes off of me, away from me, and just like look at me anatomically, clinically, cold, drab, medical setting. Okay, I'm still gonna tell you, hey, I'd rather have the curves. I'd rather have other physical attributes because I've always wanted that life, the life that comes attached to it. Okay. Now, so yes, part of the reason why I wanted to transition was because of this stereotypical gender roles. It's beaten into me. It really is. And at this point, you can demand to be treated a certain way, but unless you physically show that, and again, most plain will disagree, But unless you physically show that society, strangers, are not going to treat you the way you want to be treated, unless that's what they see and that's what they hear. So fuck it. I want to do it. I want to be treated that way. I want that kind of reverence, that kind of perception. So yeah, and to the point where now I emotionally, mentally, and physically would prefer myself to look and feel like that. You know.
I got a side question on what Sam said after Donald.
Go for it.
Go ahead, I'll wait.
Okay.
I'm done.
I'm just gonna
so
look forward
Sam,
and wait.
what Sam was saying sounded a bit different from what Nicole was saying. Sort of like Sam was talking very much about her body, where Nicole was talking very much about his things of the world, right? So are those like two different groups?
At least for me, yes. I'm a mind-body
I'd say in a lot of ways.
There are two different reasons to transition, but either way, either path can lead you to the same result. For instance, you don't have to get all the surgeries. You don't have to get all the surgeries. You can still be down there physically one thing and present and live as something else, and you know, you still get what you want. You know, it's either do you want that physical body or do you want to be treated how that gender is treated within your country, within your society, your time and place. I want both. Fucking.
And at least for me, like, you know, I don't think I've ever heard this philosophically, but I personally classify myself as a naturalist, mind-body dualist, where like your perception of gender is tied to clearly both your body and like your, I guess you could say, Judith Butler, they brought this up well. They basically have, performativity theory. And then there's obviously your mind, which I would, you know,
good night.
Even though I say self is an illusion, it's a very nifty illusion that helps us construct, like, you know, if it were masculine or feminine or, you know, something in between, stuff like that.
And yeah, I'd say just the whole goal, at least in my opinion, is what is going to make you a functional member of society. Are you sitting there and suffering because every time you look in the mirror, you're just disgusted? And it's like, it's a specific type of disgust too. It's like, are you disgusted because when you look at yourself, you want the secondary sexual characteristics of a woman. You want to be curvy and you want to have a big butt and boobs and you want to be soft and you want people to treat you that way. Then you have to transition. Is it just the clothes? Is it just wear clothes? For some people, it may be. The point is finding out what is going to make you functional and a happy member of society, so you can get off like an Energizer bunny and just get going.
For me, it's drugs. Drugs, everybody.
Brought to you by drugs. And so, Donald, you waited so patiently.
Yeah.
What's on your
We are
mind?
not a drug-free channel.
Well, a few things. I mean, for one, I don't particularly like the way I look. I've had plenty of people tell me I'm good looking, and some people don't think so. And I'm okay with either and both of those. But I do change the way I look from time to time. The purple hair is kind of a new thing. I did that once years ago before anybody was dyeing their hair unnatural color. Actually, I've only heard of one other person that beat me to it. She did it in the 70s. I did it in the early 80s. I think she said 1979. I think I did mine originally about 1981 or 82, something like that. At any rate, but the thing is, changing something about yourself, certain things are easier than others. One thing, most women in most modern, well, I don't know about most, a lot of women in most modern societies are taught that the face that grows on them is not their face. The one they put on is their face. As opposed to men are usually taught to accept whatever face they ended up with. And sure, you can shave your beard and mustache, and some are encouraged to do that, and some are encouraged not to do that, for different reasons. But they can make up their own mind, and it's an easy enough thing to do. Growing a beard back takes a little longer, and some guys just can't. some, a lot of women can't, some can. And, some of those that can choose to, and probably most of those that can choose not to. But those are all personal choices. And when it comes to, what kind of external genitalia you have, well, large breasts are kind of hard to hide. Not impossible. Some people manage to do it, but they're kind of hard to hide, even with clothing. But it's not that easy to just go back and forth and say, today I want to be flat chested and tomorrow I want to have large breasts, and I want them to be natural, not, like artificial. And right now, a lot of people, generally speaking, when somebody wants to go physically transgender, it's a surgical procedure for the most part. There's some, there are some hormones involved. There are some chemical treatments involved in getting it done right, but it's generally, for the most part, a surgical procedure. It doesn't have to always be that way. And I would not be surprised if humanity doesn't wipe itself out too soon for this to happen. If somewhere along the way, changing genders will be a much easier thing to do and a much less traumatic thing to do, especially in the sense of physically traumatic. And I don't know if it'll ever get to the point where it's as simple as changing clothes. Wearing like putting on a dress or putting on a men's suit or whatever the case might be, but it might actually get that simple to change your physical body gender. And at that point, if it becomes that easy or even gets close to that easy, I wouldn't be surprised if the vast majority of people end up choosing to be some form of androgynous. Just
So
or some form of mixed gender, maybe they want to have large sexual parts on both body extremes.
What you're talking about designer DNA.
I think
Designer
that's
DNA. So that
not even so much DNA, because the thing is, if I
you want
have
it to be natural.
supposedly I have an XY chromosome pair. If my Y chromosomes went away right now, I wouldn't immediately become female. As a matter of fact, I might never become female at all. My body would start to lean toward some female characteristics. If my Y chromosome was replaced by a duplicate of my X chromosome, I'd have all the genetics necessary to reproduce and all the genetics necessary to be a female, but I wouldn't be a female because my body has already developed male. Now there are other treatments that could be done.
I speculate
that would not be surgical. That could do the equivalent of what the surgery is doing, and then some. Is kind of my point.
So I think that your proposition is possible. That one day we will have designer DNA kits where you can go and get your DNA permanently changed or temporarily changed to change the color of your eyes or your hair, the texture or the color of your skin, for even your gender. And I do think that if you were to replace your Y chromosome with preferably the X chromosome of your father, because your mom already gave you an X, that over the course of at least 7 to 10 years, you would become a female. I'm pretty sure as your cells die, they are replaced by more cells according to your genetic code. Well, if the cells for your testicles die and your body's creating cells for ovaries, I think you're slowly going to develop ovaries instead, and your prostate will become a uterus. And so
we don't fully know, but you're onto something there.
Yes.
One thing to keep in mind is that in that sense, my ovaries have already descended, and
they would ascend as your body.
They might, but while they're not ascended, they're still going to be under conditions which encourage them to be testicles rather than ovaries, even if my genes want to say otherwise. So there's a bunch of factors involved like that, and that's why I say if you just change the genetics, it's a little more complicated than they make it out to be in a lot of like fiction works and stuff like that. You don't just become the other gender, but you might become.
It would happen very slowly, and it would be very painful.
And you might become, for the most part, the other gender, and maybe not entirely. It's kind of hard to say. I mean, would your bone sizes change and everything? Because a lot of it's already been done. And
Because
to some extent, yeah.
You
And a lot of
it
it,
every 7
And-
years, right?
but then we could augment that with hormones, and we could also make
Exactly.
specific genetic changes, not to the whole body, but to specific parts of the body,
Designer genetics. So one day it probably will
to
be possible.
encourage things to encourage things to happen, after it would otherwise be too late to happen. So that's what I'm saying. All a matter of what the technology is.
And so I'm going to interrupt for 1 second, and then I'll let Tara ask Sam a question. Just wanted to say, to me, it's almost like I view more as a social, cultural, and a lot of times heavy hormonal thing, along with lots of other things like getting laser is very much a trans community thing.
What?
Laser hair removal, or electrolysis. I'd say hormones is a big one for me.
Mhm.
I don't like to. Sometimes I go over it. I should go over my scale. In fact, I'll go over my scale of intersex, but it's part of the reason why I'm not getting surgery. But to me, there's 4 different parts of intersex, and the scale is how messed up are your genitals. And the scale can be the head, the shaft, the balls, and then genetics. I am the least amount of intersex. I just have a messed up head. And so that is it. And so I am intersex, but then I got raised as the different gender for 18 years. So I can't escape my transgender-ism either. Everyone loves a good ism. But yes, I think it's kind of a conglomeration. I think the surgery is the most highlighted part in a lot of culture, in culture, because it's such a scary thing. It's such a drastic thing.
They abbreviate the entire process.
And it probably should be
A lot of
scary for
focus.
just that reason.
Yeah, and it should be.
It's either because they're called
Don't take it lightly.
Or so and so had the chop. That's it.
Exactly, and you have to be careful, because I know a lot of people jump in with depression or with
and then they change their mind after it's a little late.
It should be, surgery should be the last resort. Exactly, and it really should be about getting your brain to be happy. What is it that could make you look in the mirror and feel good so that you can get up and get out and go do things?
So, if you guys don't mind, my one of my next questions.
100%. And then Tara had a question.
Tara.
I also want to say something later. If you can cue me in later on, I also want to say something about the cis thing.
So then, if you can both remember that's true. Tara, you were first. What was your question for Sam specifically? I think you said.
It was for Sam, and I feel like I've been way too high waiting for this.
I'm
So
sorry.
I'll probably make some room to be make this chat a little bit more streamlined, because I'm still going to listen to it. But my hypothetical is for Sam, and I guess if Donald wants to come in, he can come in too. So
I do like a good hypothetical.
It's because this is actually one that's based on my own fiction. So let's suppose we have like this sort of super advanced engineered life form, and it attaches itself to sentient life forms and alters. It's a symbiote.
Oh, so it does something.
It gives you
for the
superpowers, obviously. It gives you superpowers.
I'm right with you.
All right, so
I've thought about this before, actually.
So this is. I think this thought experiment will be useful once we sort of make it more realistic. But let's suppose that this symbiotic life form has the ability to alter, recombine, re-engineer DNA. It's super advanced, by the way. It's not natural. It's artificial. So I want to sort of posit that can you either of you two conceive of a world with our basically our advancements in like hormone delivery genetic, engineering, sort of like even like more hypothetical technologies like nanotechnology and possibly like other less invasive surgical methods. Can either you two conceive of a reality where like you just go down to your local Walmart? But since we're in the future, obviously, like I don't know, by 500 years, we'll call it Earth Mart. You go to Earth Mart and you spend like 500 credits on like this symbiote that changes your DNA to whatever gender identity you want to like sort of like use, like either like not just on the quote unquote Amy Newman intersex scale, but also the sort of like the butch femme scale that I'm more familiar with.
Are you finished?
I'm finished. Yeah. Basically, can you conceive of a reality where you spend like $500 on genetic engineered life form for gender?
I can consider a reality where that technology is available, but it will probably never be available to the general public. Only the rich and the luxurious will be able to afford it. They're like just companies. I won't even begin with the government. Companies will not want that to be distributed among the masses. It's totally. It's never going to be that something like that would never be priced for the everyday, not even the middle class.
Oh, actually,
at first it would be designed to save lives or for military use, for spies, espionage, to give liaisons and secret agents, undercover agents, certain powers and abilities to change their disguises, their looks, to go anywhere, be anywhere, do anything. Then they'll send, just like military vehicles. You could have a real military Humvee, or you could have the stripped version, and like the rap stars do. It's still a Hummer, but like not the H2, but like the actual like the Jeeps, for instance. That's not a real military vehicle anymore. So you'll have a commercial version of it, and it'll be very expensive and high commodity, high demand. And it'll just like plastic surgery today.
Let me actually readdress my bias.
Plastic surgery today is just like that.
Can I disagree with you, Sam?
Because I feel like my bias actually came in from an interesting perspective, because I am a straight up, I gotta make sure that it's not Halloween and no one's nearby. I'm a straight up socialist.
Plenty of cases where people don't take care of that symbiotic creature. They eat a shit diet, don't get enough exercise, don't drink enough water, shit dies, and then they're fucked up. They either lack the hormones or genes that the creature used to supply, or they have too much, kind of like steroids. Your body gets used to the external hormones, stops creating its own, or vice versa. It creates a dependency on that drug.
Well, from a socialist bias perspective, we have this tendency to quote unquote seize the means of production, democratizing our institutions and our businesses. That was my bias asking that question, because the reason why I asked
from a socialist point of view, I was just thinking of like what are humans like? What do humans do?
When you said it was too expensive, like whenever you talk about it being quote unquote too expensive, the reason why things are usually expensive, especially when it comes to medicine and like sort of medical technologies, is largely because of either to start off with research and development. That's the big one. And then two, at the end of it, it's usually patents and basically sort of the intellectual property of the designed, I guess you could say, life forms. Like there's a patent for golden rice made by Monsanto. We just don't talk about it, because I feel like that if we start talking about it, we're going to have this reconsideration of like what we have are like, what is the fine line of like, basically the autonomy to make your choice of like, buying like the, $500 Earth Mart symbiote to like do whatever with your gender. Like
or your eye color, or your height, or it's not just going to be gender. Just
so I'll let
for me, for the record, it'd be superpowers clearly. So I clearly want to like get laser beams. Because sometimes I see like non-socialists tell me what socialists are, and I'm like, oh, you don't know what socialism is. But anyway, that's my political rant. I promise.
No, hey, you're fine. So I will let
will be definitely reserved for the military. Super soldiers have been a dream, a wet dream for governments for as long as you can imagine.
Yes, they have.
And so I just want to say hi to Aunt Cher. I'm going to be right back. One second. We'll hand it over to Ogre in a second so he can bring us back on topic. But Donald, you wanted to say something. You wanted to have a response.
Yeah. Well, Nick beat me to a whole lot of what I wanted to say. There's that. But Sam, what you were talking about, I would agree. If it happened right away, if it happened right now, that's pretty much how it would go. I don't think it's likely to happen that soon. And even if it does end up like you said, and starts now or starts soon, and ends up like that, I don't think it'll stay that way. The idea that something like that would be unaffordable to the average person is about the same as the idea that clothing would be unaffordable to the average person. There probably was a time when that was the case, when the average person couldn't afford, clothing other than grab some leaves off a tree and wrap them around yourself.
Or like when religious law says that you can't wear the nun's clothes because you're a man.
Aren't we
stuff like that?
Isn't the U.S. where the poorest people can still have cars? One of the countries where the poorest people can still have cars.
There's some of that going on, and yet where I grew up in the U.S., I could never afford to take a taxi, and when I moved to Bolivia, I think I took a taxi about once a week or so. I could afford a taxi there. It cost barely any more than taking the bus. So it's a difference in economies.
We have sort of equivalents of economies when we consider not just medicine and travel and other expenses, but pertinent to what we're discussing now, obviously medicine, in this case hormone therapy. I've heard that we are rather expensive in hormone therapy. I don't know because I'm not trans or anyone taking hormone therapy, but I've heard compared to other countries the United Kingdom or Bolivia or Brazil, we're fairly expensive.
I have actually long thought that at least some subset of humans will probably end up eventually dependent on a sort of artificial skin, a second skin that we put on, that we grow onto ourselves, and that maybe can be taken off and replaced, but that we wouldn't do very well without them because we've grown dependent on them. Now, as for how well that second skin, or that ectoskin, you might call it, handles us when we don't nourish it right and stuff like that, a lot of that would have to do with how well it's designed to adapt. And so exactly there again, exactly how that'll turn out, if it even happens, nobody really knows. But I have spent a lot of time thinking about it and working out some of the details of how it could and couldn't happen, and what would be more likely or less likely. I actually think that it's quite likely that we'll be able to make such a thing function as a sort of spacesuit, in a sense, that we could exit a space vehicle without putting on anything special.
Very much like the biological armor from the aliens in the 1997 film Independence Day. It was a very thick suit that was biological, and it looks like it was mostly made of fatty tissue. But
I've seen the show, and I don't recall that detail of it. That's interesting. I missed that.
The good news is I think the silver lining of this exchange is
I'm pretty sure I've seen it, but it's been so long. Okay.
So the aliens were pretty slim, and they looked very frail, but with this thick, it looked like bacon. Damn, that's a lot of fat, and nervous tissue. But it had a thick skin, and so it was about this thick.
So they had a removable skin they could survive without, but not do well without. Sort of like I'm talking about.
Correct, and they were.
I wonder if I missed that. I know I've thought about this kind of stuff since way before then. And so it's if I did miss that, it's sort of amazing I missed it. But I'm not sure if I saw the whole show either. I might have missed that part of it entirely.
It was only a movie. But Amy made a good point.
I think I saw the movie on television, but like I said, I might not have seen the whole thing. I might have only got to see part.
As
Well worth your money. Go buy it on Blu-ray 3 times.
she made a good point to me, how moving parts break down, and the answers, like to artificial life or supplementing life or enhancing, augmenting organisms is not through mechanics and cybernetics. Even though I like the mechanics, I like cybernetics. I want a robot arm. Fuck that. But the answer is most likely going to be a biological solution to everything. It's adaptable, it's maintainable, sustainable, just like you would sustain a machine, but it doesn't last forever because it's, in the end, biological.
Gotta wonder if someday we'll actually have biological cybernetics.
Biological armor, yeah. So I can imagine, like living armor as opposed to non-living armor being more successful, even though I'm a fan of the latter. But I just like the big clunky suits of armor because it's the aesthetic.
Bye, KOC champ.
Yeah, I could even see the possibility that somewhere along the way such a thing could be developed to the point where for the most part it's inconsequential that it's alive. Like a tardigrade, you put it out in outer space and it just goes into hibernation mode, and for all practical purposes it's not alive, but you can put it back in an environment where it can survive and it goes right back to living. And I got to wonder if we might someday have cybernetics that pass for purely mechanical in a lot of ways, but that if they get damaged, you can give them a little nourishment and they can repair themselves.
Kind of like controllable stem cells, like
something like that, yeah.
Sentient stem cells.
Okay, that's actually how the symbiote works in my power system. It's plain
sentient. Well, we already have such an example of a symbiote within our guts, our stomachs, and our intestines.
Like our microbiome.
Our microbiome,
we definitely need them. We definitely need them to survive. So,
well, like the idea I had for this sort of power system.
I mentioned that to Kent Hovind. It totally went over his head. It was my subtle way of saying he was full of shit, but also, it is real.
I think that like the sort of perspective I've had on like the symbiote I've considered, because the symbiote it's sexless. It doesn't have the sex chromosomes. It's more like an organ that's dependent on the more sophisticated sentient being for survival. Like it doesn't feel pain. It doesn't need to eat. It uses sunlight to actually, it uses sunlight to actually recombine and use cells to basically regenerate any sort of wound or basically
forgive me, but
I just remembered something else.
One more response, each of you, and then an ogre's bringing us back on topic. No, Sam and Donald, I see you want to respond. That's good.
Go ahead.
So whether it's a symbiote or a parasite, I'm pretty sure the organism will need to reproduce somehow. So even if the gender of its host bears no difference to it, it has to release some kind of spores, or like a tapeworm, lay eggs in like the host's body, or you pass it out, in any safe way that doesn't just kill a human. But eventually it has to reproduce somehow, or else you'll have to create each one of these symbiotes, test tube one by one.
I was going to make a joke about this.
There's a way you can do both.
Are they a plant? Are they a plant matter? Or do you grow them?
You find someone else with the symbiote. You basically have a one night stand with them, and then the baby will carry the symbiote.
Oh, now that could get complicated.
Yeah, it depends on the species, for example. There are Voes, which are more humanoid demons. They're more compatible with humans than, let's say, the Oma, which are actually they live on methane.
Sounds like a virus,
I think it is a work of fiction you're working on.
It is a work of fiction. I was actually going to bring it back to reality very soon. Don't worry.
I did want to add something, and this might actually go well in your work of fiction, because this is actually doable in reality, not with the technology we have now, but potentially in the future. And Sam had mentioned something, like going to a store and buying something like that. And I mean, if you bought one that's that appears to be male gender and one that appears to be female gender, and you swap them back and forth, you could look like you're one gender one day and the other the next day. But one of the things I was thinking of is if you had one that not only existed on the outside of your body, but that actually made connections to your nervous system, to be able to, maybe at the skin level or whatever, but that it could sense something of your nervous system and figure you out, in a sense, that it would have its own kind of intelligence. That something like that might be able to detect whether you would prefer it to be more masculine or more feminine, and maybe even in what ways. And however quickly it could manage to do that, it might take it hours, it might take it weeks, it might take it months, but however quickly it could manage to adjust to that it would adjust itself based on what it perceives to be your wants and desires.
I sort of want to tell you as well that, like, yeah, I already thought of that too. Is for this, it actually connects to your nervous. Connects to your nervous system and uses your nerves as basically like an octopus. They change them to neurons. So
okay, so it's connecting at a deeper level.
Yeah, but
it sounds like sub-brain activity. Really, we don't have control over the blood cells in our stream. We don't have control over which neurons receive electric signals or not. That's all regulated by sub-levels of the brain, like hippocampus or like stuff like that, or medulla oblongata or stuff like that.
But the brain is us, so we do have control. It's a question of what level of control and what kinds of control, and that's why I say something might be able to figure out.
You have the last word on the topic.
I'm quitting. I'm going to mute myself. Let other people talk.
Good. Ogre, what was your question?
So my question was more pertinent where we didn't go into sci-fi Independence Day world. But it was still fun stuff. I have no problem with it.
I understand this.
Are you saying it got a little Deus Ex Machina?
So
yeah, but so yeah, the question I had kind of tied back a bit to you guys were talking about, sort of when to change, how to change, all the varieties of change, and I beg your pardon if this is too political.
No.
But
it's the time.
That brings up the obvious question about youth, transgender youth, and we have now, and the question sort of would be a two-part question. One, when do you think they are capable, and two, how do you legislate something like that?
So that's complicated.
Yes,
it's situational. So we have to first put the goal. What is the goal? The goal is to make sure that the child turns out okay. As long as we all have that goal in mind, then, and that sounds good, Donald, you'll be next. Well, Sam, if she comes back, will be next, but if not, then you'll be next.
I was just waving at Sam.
Okay. Hi, Sam. Because so there's two sides. Both sides of this are saying we want to protect the kid. You have the liberals, they're saying we really want them to transition to protect the kid, and the conservatives are saying we don't want them to transition to protect the kid. Yeah. And so what it means is we have to come in at every stage with an expert, with the parents, and you have to be cautious, and you shouldn't go over a stage that doesn't, just like how surgery should be the last thing, even as an adult. There should be maybe puberty blockers are the middle ground, and maybe hormones is actually the last thing that we want to give kids. I could tell that's what conservatives. So that should be just like how the adult, the last thing was surgery. For kids, maybe, and my cat is scratching, the last thing should then be hormones. It's not that we want to give hormones. In fact, maybe that should be the exact opposite. And that is just the fail-safe. We want these kids to really figure out, is it gender? Is it not? Is there not some underlying problem? We should try and peel away if there's something else here. We should make, I think it's rare, but you should peel away, if there is that crazy parent that is trying to push transgenderism on them or something, we got to peel that away. And so you just come in with it slowly and situationally and with the child's best welfare in mind, and just like anything else.
Before
Sam, but my
goes,
cat wants to scratch.
Yeah, before Sam goes, I wanted to add the tweak to my original question of do you know of any legislation currently being talked about, or any politicians that kind of have a good avenue, a good path in your point of view on this question? So add that little, asterisk at the end of my original question.
It's hard. I'm at the point, and Sam can answer. I'm at a weird middle ground where you almost hate what everyone's saying on all sides, and you just wish everyone would calm down and just
we're probably
out.
like 10, 20 years out from this actually being, gay rights are now finally becoming a normal thing. So
I think this will become boring, and we'll have gotten a better grasp on what the proper thing to do is. I think we're figuring it out.
I hope we advance that
with
far.
old people dying.
Oh, people dying, exactly. I don't. Did you hear any of that, Sam? Did you have any?
I missed quite a bit, but when hold on a second. When I put my earphones in, when I put my earphones in, I heard you talking about what should be the first, second, and third resorts for adults versus children. I totally agree. Take it slow. Don't hop on the hormone bandwagon willy-nilly. Find plenty of therapy. Find out what is going on with the kid. Don't just assume it's like dysphoria. You put them on hormones and stuff like that. Yes.
So Sam, my question was a two-part question. What is it personally, which is what Amy was saying, but also what do you think should be done politically? Because you can't just say in each individual case politically. You have to have a broad statement regarding this.
Actually, no, I hate that.
Well,
absolutely
for example,
terrible. Absolutely, I would do case by case scenario.
Age of consent. Age of consent is dictated at a certain age legally, because you can't necessarily talk to each individual child and figure out, oh, you at 17 are capable, you at 19 are not. So legally, you kind of by definition have to have a statement be made.
Not necessarily. There could be tests for maturity of consent as opposed to age of consent. So there are other ways.
Because how many states have an age of consent that's drastically low? What is it? 23 states have 16-year-old that's age of consent for sex. Fuck that.
Well, but that's the thing, though. I mean, you can't expect at least
I think some states you can still get married before your teens.
Yeah, you just be shooting yourself in the foot by trying to paint any broad strokes. Case by case scenario. All make necessary psychiatry first, therapy first. Find out what is the child's
condition. In the house.
What is the child's condition?
You are of the opinion that there should be no legal precedent at all regarding this? Because, I mean, if you're saying case-by-case basis, then you're basically not studying any legality around it.
Legality?
That's not necessarily the case.
I forgot what kind of fallacy that is, but
I'm failing to see how treat every case individual as a law.
You can make laws and then treat each individual person according to that law based on that person's particular circumstances. So,
explain.
Well, as I mentioned earlier, one possibility to replace age-based laws is to use test-based laws, where a person takes a particular test to see do they qualify as, for example, driver's licenses. Do we really need to have a minimum age to get a driver's license when we already have driving tests and written tests for whether or not you qualify to be able to safely drive a vehicle. I think whether or not a person is psychologically sound enough to drive a vehicle is a heck of a lot more important than whether or not they've been out of the womb enough years. So there's case by case scenario is actually the only. I think Sam's absolutely right. It's the only reasonable way to handle anything in law. We should never be painting broad strokes, but the broad strokes are there because they're easy to make, and it's a place to start. We should actually replace such laws eventually, in my opinion.
And in a second, I just want to address. Well, I'm going to address it now. Actually, to interrupt that. See, I've heard this, Jamie. I've never talked to a trans person that was pressured into it by their parents. Like, I'm sure it happens, and I'm just going to blanket state that it's wrong. But I have never, at least in the trans community, and I know lots of trannies, I've never heard of
Reclaim that slur. Yes.
Oh, you missed it. Yeah, we own that. We own that.
And it's not, and I would be against it if it is happening. So I'm sure there is going to be like some CSI crazy woman out there, and it probably is a woman. No offense to women, I love you, women. But it's almost always the opposite. It's normally us hiding it from our parents. It's normally the general.
If you establish a minimum age, then parents are going to use that to bar their children. In the cases that they really do want to transition, they're going to use that to bar their children and sabotage them one way or another before that age.
By the way, I just came to get back saying I'm going to get going. It was nice talking to Sam, Donald, Amy, and James's cat, because, I never saw James's cat speak much.
Well, thank you, Tara. Meow.
Meow.
Yes, thanks. Thanks for being here.
Meow.
So, if I could respond to, first of all, I'm not going to say I disagree with you guys' statements on these, but I think it's beneficial to play devil's advocate and try to better understand the positions.
I mean, if you do think there should be a minimum age, then state your case and put your reasons. I'm not going to attack you for it.
Trying to get at.
I think the doctors will set I think there should be standards. I'm trying to think whether it should be a legal standards or should it be medical standards. Like, I don't think 9-year-olds should be getting surgery. I think we can all agree that 9-year-olds should not be getting surgery. So there are certain extremes that we could say that is freaking obviously that is the wrong answer. The question is who sets up these standards?
Well, generally, we allow parents to make medical decisions for the child. So you would need some type of legal framework where you would be able to have a doctor or a child go against the will of their parents and say, no, they do need to have some type of transition going on, or they shouldn't. So there would need to be some type of legal framework. You can't just have doctors going out there saying, in this case, I'm just deciding that the parents can no longer make decisions for their child. It's going to have to go before a court at some point. It would be nice to just say it could all work itself out, but at some level, you do need some type of regulation. Somebody has to be able to decide.
And let me say one last thing.
At least when the parents and the child can't come to an agreement.
Yes, well, that was I was going to say. It also depends on what wavelength the parent and the child are. If the parent is fighting this and the child wants it, then yes, then it gets increasingly complicated, because I agree, children are generally idiots. I mean, I love kids. I want to have kids one day. But wisdom does come from age. And my parents, it also gets doubly complicated because
sadly not always
were secular Jews. They didn't have any religion. My mom was worried, but just about the situation. She wasn't worried about Yahweh burning me forever because of the situation. And so, it gets doubly important. Are the parents pushing against the child's wishes because it says so as a religious document? Are they saying so because once again, I just want truly the child's safety is what should be paramount, or them coming out from childhood to adulthood as a functional member of society. I'm going to use that phrase over and over. That is the whole goal. And so I don't know if you need we might need a legal framework. I think what it really needs to be is a medical framework. Is they need to figure out what
we need fallbacks in both sense.
And hold on.
I just gotta say one thing. The reason why I place more importance on the child's autonomy in this specific decision is because time is of the essence. If the child is certain they want to transition, you want to do that before they reach natural puberty. If they're absolutely certain they don't want to become what they're on their pathway to becoming, you need to stop it from them from going through their programmed puberty, so to say.
That is an important point.
I want to jump on that just to say
that's like the only reason.
Well, that is the catch-22. Is that the younger you transition, the more you will look like a quote-unquote, for whatever better word, normal person of your gender. The double irony is that if you wait super long, then you start to not look like then the social conservatives, religious, whatever you want to call, will actually make fun of you. Those are the transgender people that get made fun of the most. And so it's this weird tug of war between, you want them to turn out looking the way you want. You don't want to ruin their brain. I mean,
you want them to have a good life. You don't want to be mistreated.
Trying to walk a tightrope. You can politically.
It's still under development. I mean, maybe someday we'll be able to induce a second puberty, and then we'll have to figure out, what all does that do to a person, and will that get around such things? And I mean, there's a whole lot to still be worked out. And
what Sam was
the discussion is important for that reason.
What Sam was saying, I think, goes very much to the crux of my question, and to the crux of a lot of conservatives' questions. So let's, for the sake of conversation, say that everyone agrees that changing gender to changing gender is the correct solution to your problem that you're having. Let's just assume that for the sake of conversation. You say that you should transition before puberty, and I would say that would be a very, very big sticking point to a lot of people, because you being prepubescent children, I'm not going to be able to tell you that they understand things at that age that are going to continue to be true later on. And if it's a
very often,
and especially if it's a person-to-person case, I guarantee you 100% of children that would want to transition before puberty are not going to want to transition after puberty. So that again falls in that point wherein, should there be an age limit about that? I mean, like, I get why transitioning before puberty is beneficial. I follow that logic, but you're also having someone who very much doesn't know what they're doing make a decision that is very, very big, right?
So Sam, answer that, or Donald, and then we have a question from Jamie.
That's where I think the most important thing really, and I could be wrong, but I think the most important thing is to make sure that the child is as informed as possible and has people on their side talking with them about it, letting them, if they've got issues they have to deal with, that they have people to help them deal with those issues who understand the issues and understand as much as possible how to help them understand, the people that can educate them at that age. Because yes, if they are going to make such a decision, it's probably going to be best for them if they do make the decision early. But they also have to understand that that there are consequences to making the decision early as well, because they might change their mind later on, and it's not the kind of thing that you want to change your mind about once it's done.
And
Yeah.
so I agree. And Sam will get a chance to answer, but I wanted to bring up Jamie's question. I have an honest question, but I don't want to be insensitive. Oh, Jamie, welcome to our channel. That doesn't. You can be as politically incorrect as you want. I am honestly curious. He knows that by now. I am honestly curious. What is it that a transitioning person wants in the end? Is it realistic to be attained? I think that's a good question. To me, transitioning, I hate to use once again the functioning member of society point, but it's just about being able to look in the mirror, like what you see, and then being able to do anything else. For me, it's all about, my analogy is character selection. To get really geeky, is that you want to look a certain way and it makes you happy to look a certain way, but really what you want to do is you want to go out and you want to adventure. And so you get your character, you get it to look the way you want, and then, this is my first time really doing this subject, even though the podcast has been going on, because it's been so much fun doing all the other stuff. I'd rather talk about apologetics. I'd rather talk about debunking flat earthers. I mean, cybernetics,
The Bible.
consciousness, the Bible. I mean, there's just so much fun. And so really, it's that I get to do the little things. I get to wear, I get to dress the way I want and do all my funny shenanigans and be feminine. But then I get to sit here with James and Sam and Donald and Ogre, and we get to have some fun Bible skeptics and enjoy life. And to me, that is the really important part. It's just trying to... It's not that I was born in the wrong body. It's that I just want to feel comfortable in this body. And yes, absolutely.
Could I extend on that?
Absolutely.
I just want to kind of generalize it, because even when it, whether it applies to people considering or already being trans or not, in general, I think all of us want to be something that that we can accept being. And if that means having to change ourselves in some way, we work on changing ourselves. If that requires surgery, it requires surgery. If it requires makeup, it requires makeup. But there's also, the fact that we want to be able to present ourselves in a way that will allow at least the vast majority of the people we encounter to see us as what we're trying to be, rather than seeing us as something we'd rather not be. Because if we've already worked hard to become what we want to be, or if we're working hard to get there, most of us would rather not have society looking at us and identifying us as something other than what we're okay with being. It's kind of like what I was saying earlier about, if somebody, even as a young child, if somebody had called me a stereotypical male, I would find it insulting, and now I still would. And if somebody called me stereotypical, just stereotypical, I'd find it insulting. But but I don't like the male persona that is portrayed as stereotypical. And I'm not saying most males are stereotypical. I don't think most are. But we get this stereotypical projection of, a male has to be mean and vulgar and all these other things that most men don't want to be. And a lot of men end up presenting themselves as being that, because they're taught that stereotypical male, and they want to be seen as stereotypical male. So again, it's a question of, what do you want to be and what do you want to be seen as in general?
Well, I know I've heard Amy talk about before that because like she says, she's a mama Tyrannosaurus and a grandma Tyrannosaurus.
Absolutely.
That she's been talking to people before about their gender issues and transitioning, and she's had people say, well, I mean, why can't I just be a girl with the beard or a girl with facial hair? She said, well, you can if you want, but you just have to realize how other people are going to look at you. And if you're okay with that, okay. But, you do have to be aware of how you're going to be perceived.
Yes,
there
I
are
will.
women. There are women who are proud to have a beard and a mustache. So it's out there.
Yeah.
Yes, as long as you're okay with what gives. My biggest tip to transgender women, and it tends to be transgender women. I love you, transgender men. I can only give tips on what I know, but they tend to go what I call through, and Sam has heard me rant on this for hours and hours, but they go through what I call the awkward tranny stage. And that is when a transgender woman comes out very excited because they've never been able to do anything feminine and they want to do everything at once. And so they wear very risque clothing. They are louder. They're very activisty. And, they get to do the things. They're going through puberty. They really are. And so you have to let them go through all the stages metaphorically. And eventually they kind of chill out. They're not going to scream over every pronoun. It gets to a point where I like it. I mean, we sit here, James and I go back and forth and go, sir, with Mr. Batman. I couldn't imagine doing it any other way.
Okay, so yeah,
He's a special case.
To further go on, Amy, Dak, to answer your question, and Amy to elaborate for what you said.
Go ahead.
We do go through a second puberty, trans women and trans men, and it's like you've been reset to just after potty training. You are now the mentality of a 5-year-old, whatever gender you want to be, and you want to do everything super feminine or super masculine. And that's not uncommon
for people without gender change as well, by the way.
You kind of mentally regress a little bit too. And it shows through your clothing and your behavior, and you throw everything that you enjoyed from your previous life into the closet or sell it or shit like that. Like a friend of ours, remember Sunico's girlfriend, Amy? Christina? She told me she loved 4x4ing, but she sold her Jeep when she first started transitioning because it's too manly, and then she kicks herself for it now. That's an example. Or you want to transition, but I got to give up my video games because that's too boyish. No, the fuck you don't.
In fact, let me give another common phrase, the one that I didn't make up, is that generally right before you're about to figure out they're about to come out as transgender, they go through the ultra masculine phase. It's why a lot of transgenders are in the military. It's because they try and they're like, I'm going to squish the girl out of me. And so they go this ultra thing, this ultra buff. And then what happens is they're
trying to present as the thing they don't want to be so that other people will accept them as something.
Yeah. And what happens is they peak and they hit this point, and it probably lines up with depression where they're like, oh my God, I can't do this anymore. And so what happens is they switch and they become so feminine that you're like, all right, ma'am, I know you're wearing 9-inch heels, but you got to come down because
this is Denny's.
Yeah, this is Denny's. Please get off the 9-inch heels. And so what happens is eventually they then have to re-mellow out, and you become this amalgamation of the feminine and the masculine, which is what most people are.
Yeah, but then there are also people who are quite comfortable with being male or quite comfortable with being female and want to be more of that. And there are people who are just naturally very feminine or very masculine who even then still want to be more masculine or more feminine. So I think, we talk about gender reassignment, but I don't think I've ever really heard anyone talk about gender adjustment. And really, I think that's what it more comes down to is if you're not exactly happy with what your gender is or how your gender is portrayed physically, or for that matter, your mental gender, if we want to adjust these things, eventually we should all have the option to do so and have safe methods and the availability of counseling to get it done and stuff like that without having to, break the bank in doing so to speak.
Oh my God, yes.
And I would
one day.
I'd also like to throw out, how should I say this? Another olive branch to conservatives. There is not 56 genders. Just like Sam was talking about earlier. There's
a lot more.
That was a Facebook lab. That was a Facebook lab created. I swear. Zuckerberg was just sitting there, and he's just counting his $100 bills like this, and he's like, "Yeah, go get one of my interns. Go get them to collect as many words as they can find, shove them into a PR statement, and go show all the public how LGBT friendly we are." And man, has that statement not done more damage than anything else? Not 56 genders, goddammit.
Heinz 57 flavors.
Yeah, well, I mean, in the end,
spicy, mild.
Seriously,
in the end, it's really only coincidence that we ended up where we are genetically. I mean, it's evolution. Humans should be able to move beyond that to the point where, we really don't need labels for such overall, large categories. Where I mean, we'll still have some remnant labels and we can use them when we want to, but we should never have to need them.
Are you saying there's not spicy tranny and mild tranny?
We should just go by flavors.
Well,
we should just
that's just it. That's just it. You can use more than one word. You don't need a single word label for every single thing there is.
Thank you. That's what
All
I'm
right,
saying.
so I got my last question before I go to bed exactly on this subject.
And we're gonna, just to say before Ogre says that, I think we're gonna wrap up in about 30 more minutes. I think we'll finish it. Hold on one second. I know, Donald, you wanted to.
No, I was just gonna say we can go into more in that on that language episode if you decide to make that.
Okay. No, I think Sam would love to.
I do like etymology. That's, like I said, the only newfangled terms I can respect are the ones where you can tell the creator was trying to follow established scientific and clinical practices. Okay? But even then, we have things like polyamory. Like, you're mixing Latin and Greek. No. Stop it.
Yeah.
Stop it.
It does help to understand a little linguistics.
It catches on. It's like,
it catches on.
And actually,
some of them work.
Before you make you asked your question, I want to make a joke that my brother gave me because he developed testicular cancer and he was 35.
Oh my God, he says this every time we go over.
I know, I can't have it. So his favorite joke, and he's a cop, but he loves to be like, "Oh my God, my sister has more balls than I do."
But
or when you got pregnant.
Or when I got pregnant. Oh my God. He loves that when I was at Cheesecake Factory because I'm a little bit better. I swear the jujitsu and the yoga is helping.
Are you standing up better? You
I know I do. And a lady she was so happy. Because she was staring at me and she's like, "Congratulations." And my brother leapt up and was like, "That's right, she's pregnant." Woo! And just her and the waitress were dancing, and I'm like, I'm a tranny. Oh my God.
Well, I'm gonna head out of here and head back to my studies. Thank you for having this episode. I don't know how much of it I'm going to be missing, but I do want to get back to my studies.
Fun. Well, thanks for chiming in, Donald.
Well, thanks.
Good to hear from you.
Nice to meet you now because I was busy yesterday.
Take it down.
Yeah, thanks. Cool. And Amy, go ahead and figure out who wants to be in on that language thing and who doesn't. How you want to do that? Get back to me on it. Let me know.
Lingo.
Sounds good to me. I have to we're trying to get more active in Twitter, Atheist, social media. Go out there. Okay, that sounds good to me.
Ciao.
Bye, Donald.
Bye, Donald.
Toodaloo.
And okay, Ogre, I think what's going to happen is you're going to ask your question, and then I think we're just going to do our roundup and bring it to a close.
Great, that works for me. This one perhaps a little less serious, but on the topic of the 57 flavors, what did you guys thought on animal kin?
Oh man, that's so complicated between me and Sam because you would have to understand we have roommates that are probably or ex roommates. Who the fuck knows?
No, we have ran with the furries through the forests.
We
AKA
have ran at their
convention
after
hotels.
parties many a time, and my
Yeah,
answer is Ogre. Can I plead the fifth on this one? Please don't make me. I like my.
I can bug you later.
I am a self-proclaimed diplomat. I think I can explain how these people feel without painting a broad stroke and without voicing too much scorn. You have subcultures, different niches, okay, and especially subcultures based in escapism, like otaku or comic book, subcultures. Or
Bye, Megan. It was nice having you on.
Bye, Megan.
Gender issues aside, there's cross-dressing, communities and subcultures like shit like that. Well, one of these subcultures has to do with vicariously living through animals. Okay? Sometimes it's creating a cartoon character for yourself, and that's pretty much the furry fandom. Some who aren't even furries just try to embody their favorite species as much as they can to an unhealthy point where they actually think they are that species in a human body, and they call themselves otherkin, and they swear that they have wolf moments or tiger moments or whatever, but nobody ever has chicken moments, and
Sam, I have many chicken moments, but it's not the same subject we're talking about.
Yeah, when you order from fucking KFC or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
No, they really
vegan
think,
Amy.
the other kin people really think
okay.
they are this animal instead of a human. Or it's just like they really think they're, have the spirit of this animal inside a human's body, or they're trapped in a different disguise or something like that, whatever. And it's usually just aggravating. Like they insist that you call them or you recognize them as a fucking gazelle, right? Instead of, and then sometimes it gets so far as they really think they're a gazelle, and they do this at work, stuff like that. But like I said, with every subculture, you get the same thing. There are people who really think, and I've met one. They really think they're a copyrighted character.
Well, to interrupt you for a second, I mean,
they really do think. I've met some. I've met at least one that swears.
When Amy gets in the litter box with Moonlight.
Oh, well, I mean, if she's watching this, we heart you, Sunico. But I mean, we had a roommate. Her name, she changed it legally to Sunico, which is Japanese for large cat, because she's also a weeaboo. I'm a little bit of a weeaboo. I can't criticize her there, but let's just say I'm ganja friendly, and she was sitting there and she was lighting up catnip, and I'm like, no, you're not doing this. I'm walking away. And I
tried it. I just out of curiosity, just like, what the fuck? What the fuck? I tried it. It was soothing to my throat. It's definitely something you want to do when you're sick, like drinking tea, but it didn't get me high.
But I still love you, Sunico. You're a great girl. You're a great girl.
Hey, that's better. Like, this chick I met really thought she was Vanellope von Schweetz from Wreck-It Ralph. Like, again, it's all different flavors, but the same cake. All right? Different color icing. Whether it's copyrighted characters, or there's another gender sometimes, or there's another species, or whether it's another life form.
A dragon on another planet.
Yes. Any subculture that practices escapism. I'm going to put myself out there because I'm no better. I am part of a subculture where some people take on personas of different ages, whether they're older or younger than they really are. And I keep my activity within reasonable bounds. You know, keep it to myself, and in my home, I practice a little bit of it every day, but you wouldn't notice that. And I've seen people who take my little subculture niche way too far. Way too fucking far. And so it's any community that is based in escapism, you're going to have that shit. You're going to have that shit.
So you didn't become a cat, Amy? So Moonlight's not about to chase you out of his litter box?
It's actually a little bit like that Fly movie. I am becoming a cat, but I have to molt until they have to put me down. You know, the FBI comes for me. It's going to be terrible.
I hope it's the Jeff Goldblum and not the Vincent Price version.
Exactly. It'll. The funny thing,
is that a Jew joke?
If I could become, I can't even do Jeff Goldblum's. No, that's a good movies joke. But yes, no, I can't even do Jeff Goldblum's expressions. He's too.
Oh, he's Jeff
so
Goldblum.
Whimsical. It's whimsical. Exactly. Oh.
So, Sam, with this statement being correct, you view kin more as a fetish than as a gender akin to trans?
No, I don't, because it's funny. With all I can talk about are the subcultures and communities I've seen or taken part of. With kin and animal-based escapism, you know, furries or comics or whatever like that, it's more of a hobby that they get very involved with and sink a lot of money into. But there's definitely rampant fetish activity there, but not everyone that you find is going to be into it. More often than not, but there are some actually innocent cases where it's all mental and an outlet for them. They really do think they're a wolf, and they go out at night and they howl at the moon. You know, they don't get a rise of it, but they get this spiritual. I don't know. I can't. I can only assume what they feel, but I try to understand.
As far as kin,
kin.
Yeah, that's good for me for now. Thanks.
Yeah.
Do you want to stay on, Ogre, or are you heading off?
I gotta go to bed. I got an early day tomorrow, so.
Haley, it is the lighting. I'm not ignoring you. I just haven't.
Did you want to make any final comment before you're done, Ogre?
Well, yep, absolutely. Did you want to say anything before you go? And you can stay on. I don't feel like we're kicking. Don't make it feel like we're kicking. No,
I'm leaving.
We're almost over.
Yeah, good topic. It's the creation, evolution, making fun of Christians is more fun, but I think these topics are important as well. They're useful for someone like me who doesn't get the chance. It's literally impossible for me to engage with folks like Sam and Amy and James's cat. So it's good to have those conversations. It makes me understand my positions a bit more. And I plan on being on in the future. So thanks.
Thanks, Ogre. Awesome. Good to have you on.
Thank you for being on. All right, so I'm gonna just ask, it looks like Jamie's last question. If anyone has any more comments or questions, feel free to tag me in the live chat. And if not,
Iron in here tonight.
We did, that's right. Hey, Iron, as always.
That is a cool dude.
Big Iron, Big Iron.
And
some business with a big iron on his head.
Before we answer Jamie's question, the reason why we love Iron's name, Sam, is because for whatever reason in the Bible, iron chariots were one thing that seemed to trip up Yahweh. So for whatever reason, so the skeptics really like ironing that home, if you know what I mean, because
I just love that Christians don't like making references to that. It triggers them. It's a microaggression.
Yeah, they need a safe space. And okay, so Jamie asked, do you think if trans people have multiple categories, or it seems like there are those who really want to be full opposite of birth sex and some who are fetish driven? I think it is a big tent, just like kind of how with atheism and other categories. I mean, you can have people that are just trying to fetishize it. You can have people that, if they don't have, they really hate their body, and that is their goal to get the surgery and all of that. And so it's hard. Not only is it multiple categories, but what it seems to be a lot of is that we see people at multiple stages. I would almost say that seems to be more accurate. Is the loudest T-girls, I think, tend to be the newest T-girls, because they just found this and it's exciting and it's the thing that they can latch onto, and they eventually mellow out. I'll let Sam answer, and I'm going to let Jim in. Jim coming in at the end. Woo-hoo!
I'm going to expound on that. I want to repeat what I said earlier. Different roads to a similar goal. Okay, so yeah, they're all transgender, but some of them really want to do it for mental reasons, for emotional reasons, for physical reasons, or for sexual reasons. And I would further go to say it's different roads to the same town, because even the destination is not the same for everybody. Okay, you've got all these different reasons why these people become transgender. And even then, when they're not all the same kind of transgender people. You're going to have, ones well-adjusted to society, working at a job, dressing correctly for their ages, talking in a calm, cohesive manner. And you're going to have some that are just out loud, just party life all the time, over-sexualized. They want to be a flirt, they want to be a whore, or whatever, and then you're going to have some that are, like I said earlier, it's a identity thing. So they're going to be like mostly dressed up in costumes and shit like that, because they're, again, usually into one of these subcultures I mentioned earlier before. It's so so much. But yes, bunch of different roads to the same town, but even in that town, transgender town, there's different corners and alleys and places. You got your main street, and you got your sidebar and the red light district and whatnot.
And how are you tonight, Jim?
Hey, Jim. Good to see you again.
What's going on, guys? Long weekend, to say the least. Oh, man.
Working? How's your job?
It's good. I've gotten a lot done. I'm trying to do a whole bunch of stuff, and also trying to get my stuff off the ground. So I've got a bunch of interviews lined up this week, and I'll be publishing an interview or two this week as well, but trying to figure out how I want to span the content out.
Woo-hoo. And so we're kind of wrapping up, but do you have any thoughts on our topic? Trannyosaurus, baby, transgender, sex, gender, the whole anything we talked about. Sports. I want you to know, this is like my prized possession now. This is Norm Macdonald wears this hat. This is the black version of it. I love it so much.
Yeah, I mean, well, at the end of the day, people should be able to be who they are. And everyone has, I guess, this weird ability to live a life. However, like if you want to have a free society, then you have to let people kind of act that out a little bit, within certain boundaries. And so I don't necessarily think it matters, in general. Like if just people.
I'm kind of digging the new hair and beard.
Thanks. This is my rebellion from now I'm getting out of the army. So
first thing I did was grow the hair.
Yeah, this is the rebellion beard, but I don't know if I'll keep it or not.
How long have you been out of the army for?
I've been out of the army since January, but the thing with me is I like job searching and stuff. So now I have a job, and I'm just trying to mess around with the beard and call it this my pregnancy beard. Since we're expecting, we'll see how long it lasts. I don't know if it'll last another week or so.
Woohoo! How long is she away now?
June. Well, we're mid-June.
Okay, moving along.
Yeah. So that should be exciting. But the hair, I needed to grow my hair out. My hair's not been this long since like high school.
Woo-hoo. That's long for you, right? That's
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
it's long. This is long.
This is getting longer. Maybe one day like Sam. Who knows? Who knows?
See, that's another funny thing. Hair is another triggering thing in the trans community, because you grow your hair and you get so shy. You go into the shop and they're like, can we cut an inch off? Like, no inch. And then you get it's so long and it's so normal that you're like, look, lady, just cut whatever. Just get the hair off me.
Well, do you guys want my opinion on rapid fire on what you guys discussed, or what?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Fire away.
I've been
Sounds
fire.
good. I'm trying to think of a joke for rapid fire, but oh baby, rapid fire me.
Well, you guys have to ask the questions. I don't know what you guys talked about.
Go, Mr. Batman, on us.
We went over. I would say we started with identity, because we all know how much we love identity politics on this channel. And then we moved into the lovely, I would say, 3 of the more controversial political topics I tried to start us off with. I think it was
Sports,
kids, and the bathroom. And then we went over TERFs, what it means, the LGB against the T movement.
How many letters do we want? How many labels do we want?
How much of the soup can fit in the bowl? Yeah.
Okay, so I can't remember all those, so you have to ask them one at a time here. Like
any of them? How are your
any
views?
of them? Okay, so I guess the sports thing, that's interesting. At some level, I would say that the initial assessment is like it's easier for women or female to male to participate. A little difficult for male to female. If you want to create a gender neutral sports or something like that, like a tiered system that Matt Billy was talking about, fine. At that point, I don't think I care enough.
See, those are my 2 solutions. I don't know if you heard
it's a solution. It's a solution provided if you change the sports structure. But if you don't change the sports structure, this is the hard truth, then you can't participate.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's something you have to understand that you're going to have to move on with.
And just to, I'll say on that, and I'll send it back to you. It's either that, or, I make a joke about it, but I swear, if they made a trans woman or a trans men league, would sell the most tickets out of all of them. I know. Just from a mix of people maybe laughing, maybe being curious, maybe liking T-Girl, who the hell knows? But I guarantee you those tickets would sell the best.
Yeah, it's one of those. Sports is a weird topic.
I know.
Identity politics, I hate that anyway, because I don't think it's useful to only identify to what's the word? It's very meaning-forge-esque, right? For me, it's saying like, if you just want to make yourself one aspect of who you are, that's retarded. That's not integrating anything. And if you don't integrate the other aspects of your personality, of yourself, then I'm sorry.
I mentioned some of that before, like how when some people transition, they lose their identity, like their personality, and that's all they become. Trans.
Like it's not like just like what was it? It was a few. Like,
what else
like,
about
if you're gay?
You
have to do everything that's gay, and I'm like,
no, you don't.
I mean, that just sucks. I have my own little thing on my channel now where I have a little forge, and it's like a little guy, like a guy with like I am, all these little things, and it's just like a hammer. It's funny for me.
I am that I am.
I feel like I used to have your channel, Jim, but if you can, oh my goddess woman.
Oh, she's getting after it. Yeah, let me drop it in
the meaning forge, right?
I still love you, Sam. No, you're fine. I do that all the time. But if you drop that, in private chat, I will send your thing. And Donald, I know you are biting at the chomp to get back in, but I want to make sure, Jim, did you have any more comments on what we were just saying?
Typically speaking, I mean, it's just one of those. It's an interesting topic. I think at some level, if you're going to transition or you're going to go down this road, you just need to be ready for people not to agree. I mean, that's just the way it is, and you need to be prepared for that. And well, don't be. I mean, I think this applies to both male and feminine, like masculine and feminine here. Don't be a bitch, you know. I mean,
I agree.
I told them I was ready to lose my whole family.
And I constantly, Sam will know once I'm saying it, but I constantly use the Game of Thrones quote from Tyrion Lannister's, "Never forget what you are. The world will not. Wear it like armor, and it can never be used to hurt you." And it's if you sit here and you try and deny what you are, that's why I reclaim the word tranny, because I'm always going to be a tranny. But
he said the world will not let you, and they will not let you forget what you are.
They will not let you
Oh yeah,
forget.
and that's the good news and the bad news. At the end of the day, though, like when you're navigating that, like it's important to kind of have a foundation of who you are as you're navigating this. That's why I think you should. Again, this is why I take the whole premises of being an individual over, being part of a mass of people, because the mass of people, if you base your identity off of that, or well, good luck, because it's going to change every 2 seconds, because they're just as finicky as anything else.
Like people who join the military and go full boot, and that's all they become. Military. This is my whole life now.
Yeah, that's just natural at some level, but it's also natural for people when they get a job to do the same thing, especially their first job or something like that, because that's what they'll all be in.
I'm not shitting on military. I was in the Air Force.
I know you are.
I'm just saying, like, that kind of happened to me.
Oh, it definitely happened to me.
I think that's part of the process, but yeah.
Yeah.
Robert in the house.
Hey, Robert.
And okay, Don, did you want to stay backstage and tell us something, or did you want to be added into the channel? You tell me. I'm trying to think, because I think we're about to wrap up, unless anyone else had anything else to say. We're coming in at almost the 3-hour mark, which is when I wanted to hit it off. So we'll go. Anybody? Okay. So that's good. We'll talk. I'll add you in, Don, in a second for backstage. And I'm so sorry, Robert. You're like, I just joined and we're wrapping up. But I heart you, Robert.
It was fun.
It was fun. In fact, let me add him in here. Habba-dabba-da. So I hope you all had a great time tonight on Skeptic and Ranting, Trannyosaurus Rex edition, where we had a fun time talking about sex, gender, and rock and roll. I want to thank Sam Alvarado, James W., Nickel Terra, Ogre, Jim, KOC Champ, Titan Uranus, Robert, Ian, Blue Cat, Doorknob, Dak, Donald, Brandon, Jim, Tao, It's a 123 Mystery,
Iron Charioteer, badass.
Yeah, we love you, Iron Charioteer, Megan, and Randolph Richardson, because I missed him in the last episode. Oh. We'll see you all on the next episode of Skeptic Ball Z.
And next time, we're all going to have Dragnet.